What is the worst thing that ever happened to you? For me, it started with a locked door that shouldn't have been locked. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in the city, and I always keep my doors unlocked. That night I got home around 10 o'clock, feeling tired after a long day. When I walked to my bedroom, I noticed the door was locked from the inside. I never locked that door, and I don't even think I have a key for it. Curious and a little scared, I stood there listening carefully. I could hear soft movement on the other side. Footsteps so quiet, like someone was trying not to be heard. I froze for a moment, then gently knocked on the door. The footsteps stopped immediately, and there was silence. I tried the door, but it wouldn't open. Then I decided to check the rest of the apartment. I opened every drawer and closet, but found nothing unusual. The front door was still bolted from the inside. No windows were open, and no way in or out. The strange sound had been real, but no one was there. I stayed awake all night with my phone in my hand, watching that locked door. I was too scared to sleep in that room again. In the morning, the door was unlocked again, and everything was normal. Nothing was missing and no signs of forced entry. Since that night, I haven't slept in my bedroom. Some nights when the clock hits 10 o'clock, I swear I hear those soft footsteps again. But when I look through the keyhole, I see nothing but darkness. Sometimes I feel like someone is staring at me from behind that door, and I don't know if I'll ever be brave enough to open it again. The next night, I pretended nothing had happened. I sat on the couch, TV on but not really watching. My eyes kept drifting to that door, to the keyhole, and whatever might be behind it. Around 10 o'clock it started again. The same soft footsteps. I could hear them clearly this time. Closer, slower, like whoever was inside was waiting for me to react. I stood up, walked over and listened. It took a long time, and I thought maybe I was imagining it. I leaned down and looked through the keyhole. Darkness. But then something moved. Just for a second, a pale shape, like a face, just out of view. My heart pounded. I almost stumbled backward. Then the doorbell rang. Right at that moment, I walked to the front door, looked through the peephole. Nobody. But the bell kept ringing. I didn't open it. When I turned around, the bedroom door was open. The room was dark but empty. Also, I thought. Days passed, but the feeling stayed. The silence in the apartment grew heavier. Every sound seemed louder. The creaks, the wind outside, the distant sirens. I started leaving lights on at night. I told myself it was all in my head, but the footsteps came back. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast. Sometimes close, sometimes far. Always soft, but always there. I stopped trusting my own senses. The lines between real and imagined blurred. I couldn't tell what was true anymore. I called a friend. He told me to leave, but I was too scared to go. The door to my bedroom seemed to hold something I couldn't explain. It was like a presence watching me, waiting. I couldn't sleep. I barely ate. My days became a fog, until one night the knocking changed. No longer soft, now loud and insistent. It came with a rhythm. 3 knocks, then 2, then 1, over and over, like a message I couldn't understand. I lay awake listening to the silence between the knocks, wondering what it wanted from me. The next day I found the door slightly ajar, but I never opened it. Something told me to stay away. I started noticing other things moving just out of sight, shadows that disappeared when I looked, cold spots in the rooms, and a feeling of being watched everywhere. One night I woke to find the chair in front of my bedroom door moved. It was now on the other side, blocking the hallway. I didn't move it back. I was afraid of what might happen if I did, but the feeling of being trapped only grew. My mind was breaking, and the footsteps kept coming. I tried recording the sounds one night, set up my phone near the door, left it running while I pretended to sleep. In the morning I played it back. The audio was mostly silence, but then just after 2 o'clock, footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Then something whispered, so quiet I had to turn the volume all the way up. It said my name, then silence again. I stared at the screen, heart frozen. I didn't sleep that night. I left the apartment in the morning and stayed out as long as I could. But when I came back, the door was open again. And on the floor, a single note, folded neatly. No handwriting, no signature. Just one sentence printed in block letters. You already opened it. I dropped it and backed away, but there was nothing behind the door again. Just the same dark room, the same heavy stillness. I started dreaming things. or maybe remembering things I don't know anymore. In the dreams, I was standing in front of the door but younger, like a kid, and someone was on the other side whispering, telling me secrets. I would wake up sweating, not remembering what they said, but feeling like it was important. I started checking the lock every hour, and every time it was still locked. Until one night, I found it unlocked at exactly 3 o'clock. I hadn't heard anything, no footsteps, no creaks, but it was unlocked, and something inside me said it was waiting. I pushed it shut, locked it again, and moved the heaviest thing I could find in front of it. The knocking stopped 4 days after that, but the dreams got worse. I started dreaming about a face, pale with hollow eyes, watching me through the keyhole, smiling. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I looked through old photos of the apartment before I moved in, and I found one taken by the last tenant. In the background, that same door was open, and there was something in the shadows, too blurry to make out, but it was there. I zoomed in and saw the outline of a person crouched low, watching, just like in my dreams. I called the landlord, asked about the previous tenant. He hesitated, then said she left suddenly. No reason given. I asked if it had anything to do with the room. He didn't answer, just said sometimes places have memories, whatever that means. I knew I had to find out what was behind the door, but every time I got close, something inside me screamed to stop, and still, the footsteps came every night. The next few days, I tried to return to something like normal, but nothing felt real anymore. The apartment was still quiet, but never still. There was a tension in the air, like it was holding its breath, waiting for me to do something, or maybe waiting for me to leave again. But I couldn't, not yet. I moved the camera closer, this time pointing it straight at the bedroom door. It recorded from 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock, and I watched it back every morning with dread and quiet panic. The first night was uneventful except for the sound of footsteps. Around 11 o'clock, soft, careful steps, like someone was trying not to wake anyone, but I was alone. The second night the handle moved again, not just once but 3 times, each more forceful than the last time. It twisted hard, like someone was locked in and getting impatient. Then the knocking started again, first at 10 o'clock to slow knocks, then again at 10:15 louder, then nothing until 2 o'clock, when there was a sound like fingers dragging across the wood. I played it back over and over, trying to hear more, trying to catch words or breathing, but there was only the dragging sound and the creak of the floor. I didn't sleep that night. The third night, I sat on the couch with my phone watching the camera feed live. I kept the lights off except for the kitchen light, and I waited. At exactly 10 o'clock the knocking started again. 3 knocks, this time slow, deliberate. I didn't move. Then a soft thump, like something had fallen just behind the door. The knob twisted, but didn't turn fully. I whispered stop without thinking, and it did. That scared me more than the knocking. I got up and walked to the door slowly, phone in hand, feet cold against the floor, and stood there listening. No sound, but the air was heavy, like the hallway was full of invisible smoke. I reached out and touched the door. It was cold, too cold. I left the apartment. That night stayed with my brother, told him the heating was broken, didn't mention the door, didn't mention the knocks, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. When I came back the next morning, the door was wide open, nothing inside, no sign of forced entry, no mess, no footprints, just the door swinging slowly like it had been open all night. I checked the footage. The door opened at 3 o'clock exactly, but no one opened it. No one was there. I paused the video frame by frame. Just before the door opens, the feed flickers like a static glitch, and something moves past the lens. Not a person, not anything I could name, just a shape, and then it was gone. I deleted the video and I locked the door with a new bolt, but it still knocks every night, always at 10 o'clock, and I think it knows my name. The days passed and the fear grew heavier with every night. I barely slept anymore. My mind was full of questions, but no answers. The knocking at exactly 10 o'clock was a constant reminder that something was still there, waiting, watching me. I stopped opening the bedroom door, completely afraid of what I might find. If I did, I spent hours searching online, reading about hauntings, curses, restless spirits, and anything else that could explain the strange things happening, but nothing fit perfectly. The more I read, the more I felt like I was losing control over my own mind, my grip on reality slipping away. One night, I decided to confront the fear. I stood in front of the locked door, heart pounding, hands trembling, and whispered, "Whoever is there, please show yourself." I waited what felt like forever, and then the knocking started again, louder. This time 3 knocks, then one like a river. I couldn't understand. I reached for the handle and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge, like it was stuck or someone was holding it from the inside. The knocking stopped, and the silence that followed was worse than the noise. I backed away, feeling helpless, alone, and more afraid than ever before. The next day I bought salt and sprinkled it in a circle around the door, hoping it would keep whatever was inside trapped, but the knocking came again, and the salt was untouched. No signs of crossing the boundary. It was like it was playing a game with me. I started hearing voices, too soft to make out words, just whispers, and sighs that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I didn't know how much longer I could hold on. The fear was eating me alive. I thought about moving out, but the idea of leaving the apartment felt like giving up, like admitting defeat. I felt trapped, stuck with this presence, and the door was my prison cell. I don't know what will happen next, but I'm not ready to open that door yet, not until I understand what is waiting behind it and why it is still here. Sometimes when I lie in bed and the apartment is silent, I hear a faint whisper, like a breath or a name spoken so softly I can barely hear it. I try to ignore it, but it stays with me like a shadow in my mind. I don't know if I'm losing my mind or if something really is there waiting for me every night at 10 o'clock, and I don't know if I'll ever be free of it. After weeks of restless nights and creeping dread, I knew I couldn't avoid the bedroom door forever. The apartment felt like a trap, each creak and whisper making my skin crawl, but the fear kept me from opening it. I started keeping a journal, writing down every sound, every knock, every whisper, hoping to make sense of the madness. One night around midnight, I heard a sudden loud bang coming from behind the door. It shook the walls and made me jump out of bed. My heart raced as I stood frozen, listening for what came next, but there was only silence. The next morning I found strange marks on the door, scratches deep enough to leave grooves, but they looked like they were made from the inside, not outside. It was like something was desperate to get out, or maybe to keep me away. I tried calling a friend for help, but I didn't want to scare them away. I explained the strange noises, the locked door, the footsteps, but they just laughed, said it was probably rats or a neighbor. I knew they didn't understand, and I couldn't blame them. The fear was mine alone. I started setting up more cameras around the apartment, trying to catch something real, something I could show someone, proof that this wasn't just my imagination. But the cameras didn't capture anything except static and shadows moving just out of focus. Every night at 10 o'clock the knocking continued, sometimes soft, sometimes hard, always deliberate. One night I heard a voice clear as day whisper my name, and it froze me in place. I didn't know what to do anymore. I was trapped between fear and curiosity. One evening I decided to leave the apartment for a while and went to stay with my sister, hoping to get some rest, but even there the nightmares followed. The presence was not bound to the apartment. It seemed to follow me wherever I went. I realized I had to face it eventually. I had to find out what was behind that locked door and why it wouldn't let me go. But the question was when and if I would be ready. The fear had become a part of my life, something I couldn't escape no matter where I went. Every night at 10 o'clock the knocking reminded me of what was waiting behind the door. I stopped counting the nights lost to sleepless hours and dread. I began researching anything that could help, a ritual, an exorcism, or a way to communicate with whatever was there. I contacted psychics, read books about the paranormal, but nothing gave me clear answers. One evening I gathered the courage to try talking again. I stood before the door and spoke, softly telling whoever was there that I wasn't afraid anymore, that I wanted to understand why it was there. The knocking started slowly, then grew louder, until it was pounding like a heartbeat. Then the door rattled, as if something was trying to push it open, but it didn't. I felt a cold breath on my neck and turned around, but no one was there. I didn't know if it was a warning or a plea for help. The next day, I found a small note slipped under the door. A single word written in shaky letters: wait. I didn't know what to wait for or if I should leave or stay. The presence had become something like a ghost from my past, a mystery I couldn't solve. Every night, when the clock hits 10 o'clock, I hear the knocking and wonder if one day I'll be brave enough to open that door and face whatever waits on the other side. Until then, I keep living in this uneasy silence, trapped between fear and hope, unsure of what tomorrow will bring. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more stories.